Welcome to Gone Outdoors. Kyle Agre and Scott Brewer of Brewer Agre Outdoors, talking hunting, talking fishing, and talking anything you can do outdoors for the next hour. Right here on KWSN 1230 AM, 98.1 FM, and Kello News Talk 1320 AM, 107.9 FM, both out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and the mighty 790 KFGO Fargo, 104.7 FM. This morning's Gone Outdoors is brought to you by Ray's Sport and Marine, your local Lund Boats and Bennington Pontoon dealer in Moorhead. RaysMarineMoorhead.com. Adventure RV across from the Fairgrounds in West Fargo, your number one RV dealer in the FM area. AdventureRVSales.com. Are you fishing for a snack or gas in Lakes Country? Lakeland General Store is your one-stop shop in the Lakes area at the junction of Highways 59 and 34 in Dunvilla. Devil's Lake Tourism and Glacial Lake Snow Bear. Linex of Fargo, this is Linex Country, home of the adventurous. Onyx Fish Midwest, Eskimo Ice Fishing Gear, and Ion Electric Ice Augers and the Ion Alpha. And it is so great to be back, as it is each and every week here in the Gone Outdoors studio with Mr. Brewer. And since we visited last on air, we were in the deep freeze. We warmed up, had a balmy heat wave midweek, and now we're cold again. It's a roller coaster, and it's a roller coaster that those of us who've grown up and lived our lives here in the upper Midwest, we've seen it before. We'll see it again. It's this time of the year, and it's kind of how things go, isn't it, Scott? It's just the way things roll.
Yeah, it seems like Mother Nature forgot again, which is okay. You know, we're kind of used to it. The good news is most of our listening area is getting pretty decent ice. You know, we had a really good freeze up this year for the most part. We are starting to get a little bit of snow cover on the lakes, which is going to slow stuff down. But we haven't had too much snow, not yet, at least not that I've heard of. There might be a few areas where there may be starting to get a little slush, or hopefully not, but I don't think so yet.
Some of the reports I've heard have been that if there is slush, it's very minor. You know, that bottom half an inch right on top of the ice and on the bottom of the snow that's there, and it's spotty. It's not consistent throughout all of the areas in the lakes. And so I think the pertinent advice is, if you're headed out, just be aware that it could be there, be aware of it, and be looking for it. And, you know, even if we get past this cold snap this weekend, you know, for a lot of us, we're past the point of needing to spud our way out onto the lake every single time. But I would still highly recommend, if you are heading out, if it's not the spud bar, make sure you have the auger, right?
Yep.
And you make a decision based on safety, whether you drill a hole, you take a look, how much ice do we have? Can I go out on foot? Can I take out an ATV, snowmobile, etc., and then assess it every, you know, for me at first, I'd be assessing it every 10, 20 yards.
You know, Kyle, today's augers, it's amazing how quick they drill, how light they are, how easy they are to move around. There's no reason why you can't drill holes every 20 yards, 30 yards, whatever it is. Can you imagine when we were kids? It seemed like when I went fishing when I was a kid, we had 2 feet of ice, and you had to hand drill through 2 feet of ice. I didn't go out fishing on early ice very often, and it makes it easier, but it's still a lot more work than what it is now. So there's no excuse nowadays not to be checking your ice, because everybody has these light, fast augers. Just use them. That's what you bought them for. Use them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is a perfect scenario for a drill adaptive auger that you can have in the seat next to you, literally, whether it's on your ATV, whether it's in your side-by-side or whatever. And anytime in the winter, just run a few holes out in the area you are planning to drive. And yeah, maybe you walk out a couple hundred yards, then you go back to the access, drive your vehicle out. The speed at which those drill adaptive augers, like the pistol bit, go through ice, you're so spot on with that, Scott, you're silly not to.
Yep. And, you know, Kyle, we talk a lot ice fishing this time of year, obviously. It's what many people are doing, but there's still a lot of people out hunting yet. We still got a lot of hunting season in North Dakota. You got pheasants, whitetail, and mule deer. Archery season is still going on. Snow geese, grouse, partridge, squirrels. A lot of them they got probably 2 weeks yet. There's a lot of hunting and trapping, beavers and raccoons, badgers, otters, muskrats, minks, weasels. All of that goes until spring. And the same with fox and coyote trapping. So it isn't like ice fishing, although we talk a lot of ice fishing. It's not the only game in town. There is so much to do.
You're right. And a friend of ours, a name that many of our listeners will recognize, Andy Holt, was talking recently about preparing for one of Minnesota's unique trapping seasons, and that is for bobcat in certain areas of the state. And I know that's in January, but the guys who are doing it, they have a very limited amount of time and a very there's some restrictions on it, and so they're getting prepared. They're getting ready for that season, even right now as we speak.
Yeah, there's a lot of unique seasons out there that people don't necessarily know about. Just go to the DNR or the Game and Fish website in your state, and you will find out what all of those are, and gives you more opportunity to get out in the outdoors.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on right now. Despite the weather, we still get out. We still love it. We still do our thing. And that's the beauty of living in this part of the world, is we get to experience all of those seasons and all of those different types of climate and weather. And we're going to find the best of what we can in each and every one of them. Scott, just a reminder to our listeners here, we do have some discount codes available. This is for some things that they might find interesting and an experience they may want to participate in,
or a Christmas gift.
It would be great for a Christmas. Both of these things would be great for a Christmas gift, Scott.
Yes, they would. And what Kyle's talking about is Onyx Fish. If you go online and purchase Onyx Fish, use the code BA Outdoors, BAO Outdoors. The BAO is capitalized. The rest is lowercase.
BA Outdoors. And
Yep.
that is at onyxmaps.com, correct?
Yep, that is correct. You will get a 20% discount. Remember, the BAO part of that has to be capitalized.
And that takes a $35 annual subscription down to $28.
Yep. And you can have all that information right on your phone. You can have it on your computer. You have it with you wherever you go.
It's year round.
It's year round. And it's useful year round. The other thing is the Brainerd Extravaganza. You'd have to live under a rock if you've never heard of the Brainerd Extravaganza. It's coming up here at the end of January. They have a code 2 for us, BAO or BA Outdoors. Doesn't have to be capitalized, and you get $5 off your ticket there. So just a couple of options. Great Christmas gifts, or you can buy yourself a Christmas gift.
Hey, Scott, speaking of some Christmas gifts, that's one of the topics we're going to talk about today on our show. But first, next segment, Barb Keller from the Minnesota DNR. She's the big game program leader. She's going to do an early recap of the Minnesota deer hunting season and let us know a little bit about how hunters in the state of Minnesota did this season. Jay Siemens, many of you have seen Jay on YouTube. He is a very, very well-known fishing personality on YouTube. If you haven't seen him, you definitely want to look him up. He and another gentleman, Josh McFadden, started something called Catch and Cook Coatings, and we're going to talk cooking. We're going to talk fish fry. We're going to talk wild game cooking with Jay, and he's going to give us some tips for being real successful with our cooking during the winter months. And lastly, Scott and I are going to give you our Gone Outdoors gift guide or gift suggestion. If you haven't purchased a gift for that outdoorsman in your life, this is going to be the chance to get some ideas, some thoughts, and some suggestions on what you might want to include underneath the Christmas tree. You're not going to want to miss it, folks. We appreciate you tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We have to take a quick break right now. We'll be back with more Gone Outdoors.
Looking for somewhere to get all your fishing information in one place? Onyx Fish Midwest has something for you.
Search for new fishing areas with filtering features such as species, abundance, trophy potential, lake survey info, regulations, and area insights are just a click away.
Getting to your target lake has never been easier with access points and public land ownership clearly marked on OnX Fish. Mark and customize waypoints and weather for your exact location. Use code BA Outdoors to get 20% off OnX Fish Midwest at onxmaps.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Gone Outdoor Radio. You're listening on Kello News Talk or KWSN in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or KFGO, the mighty 790 in Fargo-Moorhead and surrounding area. Scotty Brewer, Kyle Agre, Brewer Agre Outdoors. On this segment, we're going to chat with Barb Keller. It's been probably over a year since we chatted with Barb. She is the Minnesota DNR Big Game Program Leader. How are you doing, Barb?
I'm doing great.
So a lot of deer hunting, most of the deer hunting seasons are about over now. There's still a little bit going on here for another week or so. How did the season pan out? I mean, before we talk about that, how were we looking before the season? How were the herd numbers going into the season this year in the state of Minnesota?
Yeah, we were anticipating that we would have a good harvest this year, given several mild winters we had experienced leading up to this fall. So we were expecting the numbers to be up this year.
What were the preliminary harvest results? Did the hunters do relatively well this year?
They did. So right now we're sitting just over 180,000 deer harvested, 181,613 to be exact.
Wow.
So that is already ahead of our total harvest last year. We're currently 8% of where we were at this time last year and 4% ahead of our 5-year mean. So it's looking pretty good as far as harvest is concerned, and we still have a few weeks left of our season. So we'll see how we end up. I hope some of our late season archery hunters are able to still get out and bag some deer.
It seemed, Barb, to me like hunting in Minnesota, where my farm is, that initial cold snap really hit at the opening of the firearms season, and it really kind of got those deer that were in the close to peak rut time, really got them active. Were there other factors that you look at that you feel played a role in the success hunters had this year?
Yeah, I will say opening weekend of our firearms season, the weather was great. So we were really excited to see that weather coming up, especially in the last few years. It seems like we've had some unnaturally warm opening weekends, which puts a damper on deer harvest. So we were really pleased with that. But yeah, other factors we look at, one is in the southwest region of our state, we want to see that the crop harvest, in particular the corn harvest, is mostly complete because that plays a role in our hunters' success in that region. We also look at acorn crops. So basically the acorn mast production for that fall in really, really good years where you've got a ton of acorns falling, it can actually decrease harvest because bucks and deer in general are a little bit harder to pattern because food is everywhere in the forest, and so they're less likely to be making reliable movements to certain food sources like food plots and other areas where they may be feeding. Our acorn production was about average, so we weren't anticipating it to have a huge impact on harvest. So in general, in combination with those mild winters, things were looking pretty good.
How about hunter numbers, Barb? Have hunter numbers been going up? It seems like maybe archery season, there are more archery hunters than in the past. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we are seeing an increase in participation in our archery season, which is mainly attributed to that change that was made in the legislature with crossbows being allowed for any archery hunter now. So we are seeing a slight boost in our archery participation. Overall, I think we saw a 1% increase in license sales over all of our different seasons, which is actually really good news because in general, We see that hunter numbers are declining as many of our hunters age out of the sport. The baby boomers do constitute a large proportion of our hunters in the state. And as that group ages out, this has been seen across the Midwest, that hunter numbers are decreasing. So many other Midwestern states have seen declines. We were able to keep it actually a slight increase this year, which is great.
That is some incredible insight, Barb. Thank you for that. That's really interesting to know. And I got to ask you now, one of the topics, of course, that's been in the forefront when we talk about deer hunting. Any news this year, just preliminary data wise, on CWD and how that may have just be affecting our state's herd?
Yeah, so we do CWD sampling in coordination with our harvest seasons. So we did have mandatory sampling during opening weekend in certain DPAs, and we did collect a lot of samples. Over 8,500 samples to date. Most of those came from opening weekend, and we do have a number of positives that were detected from that effort. So we've got 99, actually it would be 100 now, 100 confirmed positive deer with that disease, and we're still waiting on 16 suspect deer, which means that we actually run two tests. We run an ELISA test, is what it's called, which sometimes has false positives, and that's why we follow up with a confirmatory test. And that's why I say they're suspect. They're still waiting on that confirmatory test. So that's probably 116 positives if those all are all confirmed, which is an increase looking at past years. And in the past couple of years, this started last year, we have seen a notable increase in the positive deer, the number of positive deer we've detected. And that is mostly in the southeastern part of our state, where we're seeing that prevalence increase. We certainly have detected the disease in other areas of the state, but we aren't seeing as high of a prevalence as we have in the southeast. Now, thankfully, we haven't really recorded any population level impacts to herds. They are seeing some of that in Wisconsin now. There's a great research project that was just concluded in Wisconsin, where they've reported some of the results that they're seeing, and they do think they're seeing some impacts in the core areas where they have most of the disease in that state.
Hey, Barb, so if CWD is not necessarily affecting the population as of yet, what are some of the biggest challenges that the Minnesota deer population have? Is it weather? Is it predators? Is it disease? Does it change year to year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does change year to year. Winter severity is one of the most common population level impacts that we see on our deer population, and that's mostly in northern Minnesota. That in combination with predation, especially in the Northeast, can have a big impact on deer numbers there, which we've seen in over the past few years when we did have a series of severe winters that drastically reduced our deer numbers there, and they've struggled to increase there. I think we're just starting to see some of those populations come back. We are seeing increased harvest in that region of the state, which is good news. So those are the common impacts on deer populations here in Minnesota. One that we also haven't seen yet is another disease, and it's called epizootic hemorrhagic disease, which does affect other states in the Midwest, and that can have population level impacts. Thankfully, we haven't seen that here in Minnesota. We have detected it in a few deer, but it hasn't affected the population, hasn't led to an epidemic at this point. So we hope that continues.
I'm glad you mentioned EHD because that was one of the things I did want to ask you about, because it seems like, especially if you head west of Minnesota, they have pretty bad outbreaks every few years, and it's good to hear that that disease hasn't really made it to Minnesota yet. All right, Barb, if people want to find out more information about the DNR and all the stuff that you guys do with the deer herd, where can they go find that information at?
Our website, www.dnr.state.mn.us, is a great place to start and use that search tool on anything related to deer. You can also call our info center, which will direct your questions to the correct person.
Perfect. This is Barb Keller, Minnesota DNR Big Game Program Leader. Thank you for coming on Gone Outdoors.
Thanks for having me.
All right, stick around. We will be back with the second half of today's Gone Outdoors after the short break.
Experience unrivaled power with the Ion Alpha Ice Auger. Choose from the Steel Bit Alpha or the Ultralight Alpha Plus.
Available in 1 or 2 battery configurations, the 8-inch model cuts an incredible 1,200 inches of ice on a single charge, blazing through at 3.4 inches per second. The 10-inch model drills 1,200 inches at 2.2 inches per second. It's called the Alpha for a reason.
Find yours at your local retailer or visit ioniceaugers.com. Welcome back to the second half of this morning's Gone Outdoors. Kyle Agre and Scott Brewer of Brewer Agre Outdoors, talking hunting, talking fishing, and talking anything you can do outdoors here on Kello News Talk and KWSN in Sioux Falls and the mighty 790 KFGO Fargo. You know, it is the time of the year when a lot of us take a look inside of our freezers and we see maybe some pheasants or grouse from this fall. Perhaps we've still got a bag of walleyes or crappies that we had from the open water season. And you know what? We need to do a little catch up, right? And we need to get in the kitchen. We need to get the fryer out and do some food prep with that wild game we have. And our guest this segment is one that many of our listeners are going to recognize, Mr. Jay Siemens. He is a fishing personality on YouTube. He is also one of the founders of Catch and Cook Coatings. Jay, welcome to Gone Outdoors.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. You're making me hungry just talking about all that.
Well, it is. I know I'm as guilty as anybody. I try to only ration what I keep that I know I'm going to be able to eat, but sometimes you have a little extra. And of course, there's also those opportunities as we get into ice season where we might have a catch of the day out there on the ice and want to eat it on up. So Jay, I know that you are very well known for your fishing and your fishing videos on YouTube. And I would say any of our listeners who haven't seen you definitely want to go out and check it out. I am curious to share with all of our folks today listening into the show a little bit about how the Catch and Cook story started and where that began and how you got to where you are today.
Well, funny enough, the story starts in an ice fishing shack, and we're actually editing a video right now. So my partner, Josh McFadden, who started Catch and Cook with me, we were sitting in an ice shack in 2018, and we were talking about, just fishing, the fishing industry and what that looks like. And, we're just like, man, the fish batter, the fish coating scene and spices scene, it hasn't seen a shakeup. It's been, the same for the past, 10, 20 years. And we're just like, well, maybe there's a place that we can do something in there. Right. And, Josh and myself, we had the background in marketing and photography, and Josh is more of a culinary background just from being self-taught and messing around. So that day on the ice shack, we brainstormed, what would be Catch and Cook, which for somehow, I don't know how, but there was no company that took the name Catch and Cook. So we're like, well, we should probably take this opportunity and run with it. And in that moment when it started, it was just, a little passion project. Josh had a family recipe that he had cultivated over the years, and it turned into what it is today. But funny enough, Josh and I went fishing a couple of weeks ago, and we were just reminiscing of the last however many years that is, 6 years sort of thing since Catch Cook started, 7 years, and where it's got now. But I mean, for all of it is just, we are outdoorsmen. We love eating fish. I'm ex-fishing guide, so I used to cook fish for guests, at the lodges 60, 70 days in a row. So when you cook fish that many days in a row, you figure out what you like and what you don't like, right?
Well, you guys definitely did the right stuff with this batter. And we should say that you have multiple different flavors. They're all very good. I've tried all of them. You got a couple new ones out right now. They're very good as well. And it's, Kyle and I found this on our trips to Winnipeg a number of years ago. And at that time, Canada was the only place you could get it. So every time we went to Canada, we had to make sure we stopped at somewhere that had Catch and Cook, and we always brought back a bunch of it because you couldn't get it here. And then about 2 years ago, you started selling it in the U.S., which made us very, very happy. But although it says Catch and Cook, it can be used on other things besides fish. I mean, it works great on pheasants, on grouse, on chicken. If you want to put it on something that you didn't harvest yourself, chicken is a great option. but it's so versatile. I mean, it's amazing how versatile it is.
Yeah, I think people, when they think of maybe shake and bake, they think of it just goes on chicken. Or when people think of fish, a fish batter like this, like, well, it can only go on fish. But I mean, I have, the front of our packaging, it has, what does it all have? Like a duck, a fish, a deer, and I think it has like vegetables too, right? So you can put it on vegetables. I have friends that are vegetarian, and you can, whatever you want to do, deep fry mushrooms or put on asparagus or anything like that, right? So it really is only limited by your creativity. And it's funny because me being a fishing guide, it was deep fried fish, I would say 60% of the time. And it's fun putting this product out into the wild and seeing what people do with it, because there's people on the saltwater coast, and they're doing all sorts of stuff with crabs and like halibut and stuff that I just don't have access to, right? So yeah, it's only limited to what you're willing to eat or what you have close to you. And for me, it's a lot of deep fried walleye and pike, but there's times where you change it up, and we don't always use the batter. We've got spices too, so sometimes if I'm trying to stay agile and don't want to bring a jug of oil, then it's just pan frying fish. And yeah, I like it all. But the more you eat fish, the more you want to experiment, right? And keep it something exciting rather than doing the same thing day in and day out.
I love it. You're absolutely right. And one of the things I wanted to do, Jay, I heard you multiple times down at the St. Paul Ice Show demoing the catch and cook. And you talked about a process you've kind of used over the years and perfected for getting a really good crispy fried fish when you do a fish fry, whether it's at home or out on the ice. Can you share that with our listeners? Just give them some tips and some advice they might be able to put into practical use.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our slogan, which we came up with at the start of the inception of Catch and Cook, was summon the crunch. And I mean, me personally, I love crunchy fish, crunchy chicken with a good crisp. Nobody likes soggy fish. So I mean, there's a few things to that, but the thing with Catch and Cook is someone gets a bag, and it's so much in the operator on how they do it. So I mean, the first step is making sure that your meat or veggie is wet. If it's not wet, it's not going to bind that first time. So getting it wet. And the thing is, I always thought growing up it had to be egg. And a lot of people, they're like, it has to be milk. And when I started cooking fish with Josh, he's like, oh, we're just going to use water. Like just use the water from the lake or water in a water bottle. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, like it'll still do a great job. So I've probably taken a step backwards from not that you can't do egg or milk, and they'll have different properties on how it adheres as well. But I would say in my recent years, it's just been, make sure it's wet, put some water in the bag or in the bowl, or, if you're ice fishing, just slosh the fish around in the ice a little bit. And then into the batter, then you've got that first coating. So if you wanted, you could fry it right at that point. But, when we talk about summoning the crunch is doing that second or that third coat. So then you put it back on. Typically I'll have a plate with water. So you're not looking at like necessarily fully submerging the battered fillet. You're just kind of just tapping it in the water, just a quick dab on either side, and then you're putting it back in the dry mix again. So every time you do that step, you kind of build the thicker layer on the outside, which gives it the crunch when you deep fry. So we often do the double dip, that we call it double dip, double coating. Like I said, from the wet into the dry, back wet, back into the dry, and that's a 2-coat. You could do a 3-coat or a 4-coat, and you chip a tooth by the end of it if you want to do enough. So that's what we like doing. But then I think the next, the application's a big part. But the other thing I remember from my days guiding, and there were stories of guides kicking the rookie guides' fires down and like pouring their oil out, because they said if your oil isn't hot enough, it doesn't matter how your fish is battered or filleted or any of that stuff. So they were like, you have to have a hot fire and you have to make sure your oil's hot enough. So if your oil isn't hot enough, I mean, you're gonna start off with the odds stacked against you. So making sure that oil's hot enough is so key. People get excited to put the fish in right away, and if it doesn't get hot, well, then you get really soggy fish regardless of how you coated it. So I mean, I personally like the oil touching closer to 400 degrees when I put that fish in, because as soon as you add the meat, you have to be like, depending on how much fish you're adding, that meat's going to cool down the oil as well. So you could have the, let's say the perfect deep frying temp is 350 degrees, 360. You could have it at 350. You could dump in all your walleye fillets. Well, then that's going to drop your temperature right away, and you're going to be fighting to bring it back up. So I'm always favoring on the warmer side, the 375 to 400, and then I put the fish in. And then when it settles, then it'll settle around that 350, 360. So you're kind of preparing, and you're also fighting the elements too if you're cooking out on the ice or whoever might be in the bush.
I love it. That is just fantastic advice. And folks, trust me, it works. When I heard Jay talk about it, both Scott and I have tried that, and it turns out fantastic. Jay, we're kind of up against the clock here, but what I wanted to do is just give a chance to for you to share where folks can get more information about Catch and Cook.
Yeah, so if you head over to catchandcook.net, you can, if you want, you can order online, or you can check out a retailer near you to pick up a couple bags. So we've got a dealer locator, and yeah, we're at quite a few locations across the Midwest and slowly expanding. So it's fun to see it out in the wild and to see people enjoying it. It's just been a fun passion project that grew way bigger than we could have ever expected.
We're talking to Jay Siemens here at Catch and Cook Coating. Jay, thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your morning and spending with us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Folks, don't go away. We've got a whole lot more Gone Outdoors yet ahead of us. We got to take a quick break now, and after that, we'll be right back with more Gone Outdoors.
The all-new Eskimo Outbreak XDP shelter gives you the same great fishable space as the original Outbreak, but packs down up to a foot shorter for easier transport.
Available in multiple sizes, the XDP features dual heat ports, giant windows, and an oversized carry bag. Whether you're camping for the weekend or fishing for the afternoon, the Outbreak XDP has everything you need for an enjoyable time on the ice.
Check out the all-new Outbreak XDP at geteskimo.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Gone Outdoor Radio. You're listening on Kello News Talk or KWSN in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or the Mighty 790 in Fargo, Moorhead, and surrounding community, KFGO. Scotty Brewer, Kyle Agre, Brewer Agre Outdoors. And we really appreciate you sticking around with us on today's show. On this segment, we are not going to have a guest. It's just going to be me and Kyle talking. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about a gift guide for all of you outdoor people. If you're looking for a gift for the outdoor person in your life, we're going to give you a few ideas. It's one thing, Kyle, that's always a challenge for outdoor people. If you're going to buy a gift for somebody that's an outdoor person, you're not really sure what to get them because you don't know what they already have. You're not sure what they need. I mean, it's that for anybody, really, but especially for outdoor people. So we're going to throw out some ideas, and hopefully they don't have them.
Can I just throw out a really quick comment and suggestion? You never have too many fishing rods. You never have too many lures, and you never, ever, ever have too much gear.
You can always build a bigger garage.
Right. Let's just preface it with that.
And there are some of those things that are on this list. So, Kyle, let's start out with gifts under $25. I'm going to start first. And a gift that I think almost everybody should have is a Reef Runner Flash Shad. Specifically, the cheap sunglasses color. It's kind of like a Fire Tiger-ish type color. They just came out with the number 4 this year, which is great for walleyes for our Minnesota lakes. It will even catch very nice crappies. And if you're a Winnipeg guy, number 6 for Winnipeg is lights out. I guarantee you will do, I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure you're going to do really well with it. That is a Reef Runner Flash Shad. It's $8.50.
That is super cool. I'm going to just go down to the basics, Scott, when it comes to under $25 gifts. Okay, I'm going to throw out a couple of ideas here. And number one, don't tell my son-in-law, but they know it anyway. They get in their stockings every single year. Disposable hand warmers.
Yeah.
Whether you're fishing, whether you're hunting, whether you're shoveling the driveway, disposable hand warmers are great. Let's look at ice safety, a redneck chisel, a set of cleats to go over their boots, and ice picks, all individually, not very expensive. Ice safety. And the last thing I'm going to throw on there is going back to last segment. We talked to Jay Siemens about Catch and Cook Coating. I'll tell you what, if we have game to cook, if we have fish to cook, a couple of bags of Catch and Cook Coating make a great, great gift.
Yeah, it's changed our cooking lives ever since we started going to Winnipeg. Well, it was probably half a dozen years after we started going to Winnipeg that it came out, but Once it did, I mean, it's all that we use anymore. And you got to get it to try it to find out. It is so, so good. The other thing I like to throw in for a stocking stuffer is the Acme Bladed Castmaster. Wonder Bread color. It's brand new this year. It's great for walleyes. It's great for panfish. That Castmaster has caught millions and millions of fish over the years, Kyle.
I'm scared to think about what that total would be.
Yeah. And now with this bladed Castmaster, it's got a nice little flasher blade on there just to try and entice those fish when they're just being a little bit finicky. Something else for you to think about, especially in that Wonder Bread color, because everybody knows that Wonder Bread catches fish.
It sure does. Wonder Bread, or in our circles, we like to call it Ricky Bobby. And he has elevated himself and proved his worth. We give him a little respect. We call that color Richard Robert.
Yes, we do. All right, Kyle. So let's go for a mid-price gift. Let's say $25 to $100. One thing I'd like to add to your stocking stuffer gift, you said disposable hand warmers. You should also get one of those electronic hand warmers. They're rechargeable. They work amazing, and it's a great gift. I know that because you got them for me like 2 years ago as a gift, or maybe it was last year.
Your hands haven't been cold since, have they?
When they do get cold, they get warmed up really quick.
There we go.
I highly recommend them. There's all kinds of different brands out there. I don't think you have to buy any specific brand. Just go get a rechargeable hand warmer.
Yeah, and that would be in that $25 to $100 range for a set of those. I think that would fit in there rather nicely. I tell you what, if someone you know ice fishes, if they have a hub shelter, a tent hub style shelter, any of the E-Hub accessories, you'll find them at Scheels. They are accessories to customize basically the inside of your shack. There's little tables, there's little rod holders. One of my favorite is the shelter light kit, because we know in the winter months, the best time to catch fish is as the sun is going down or coming up. And it always helps to have a good light in the shelter so you can see what you're doing at those times of the day.
And a good light wherever you want it. You can move it from shelter to shelter. You can put it wherever you want, and it's dimmable, which is really, really cool. Another thing, we're talking gifts for outdoors people, Onyx is a great gift. If they don't already have it, they have Onyx Fish. Onyx Fish is relatively inexpensive. It's like $35. And if you use the code BA Outdoors, you get another 20% off. Heck of a good gift. If you're an outdoorsman, if you're an angler, check into the Onyx products, because it's something that they will use way more than they think that they will.
All year long, they'll use those Onyx apps and the resources that they provide.
Yeah, they certainly will. All right, Kyle, big ticket items. I only had one on this list, which is a guide trip with either Dave Randash or Randon Olson. One, Dave's in Devil's Lake, Randon's in Otter Tail County, because they are educators. They will turn that guide trip, that one-day trip, into lifelong fishing experiences. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and if you're not listening here in the Otter Tail area or the Devil's Lake area, maybe you're more of a Lake Winnipeg or a Lake of the Woods, or maybe you're in Northeast South Dakota. There are guides all over. And the important thing to know is you want somebody who's going to teach you about the area you're fishing, about the time of the year and the species you're targeting. That is why these two gentlemen, Mr. Randash and Mr. Olson, Devil's Eyes Guide Service and Lockjaw Guide Service with Randon, that's just one of the great things with them, is you're going to walk away from that day way smarter than you walked into it.
So if you're looking for an outdoor gift for that person in your life who loves the outdoors, then maybe it's yourself, which is just fine too. Hopefully you look up some of these items and have yourself a great, great Christmas. Thank you for tuning in to today's Gone Outdoor Radio. Follow along when you're on the ice or in the field with Gone Outdoor Podcasts at kfgo.com, kwsn.com, or kelo.com, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify. Visit us at breweragreoutdoors.com and follow us on social media. Until next week, from Scotty and Kyle, we'll be Gone Outdoors.